Hi, welcome to the Corner of Knit and Tea, episode 41. I'm Laura, also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at the corner of knitandtea.com, and that's where this episode's show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Stash Buckler Adventures in Yarn, where I sell my hand-spun yarns. And we have a group on Ravelry called the Corner of Knit and Tea. If you haven't come over to join us, please do. It is Monday, May 25th. I am delayed by a day in recording, but today is Memorial Day in the United States, and it was a 3-day weekend, and I wanted to get a few more things off the needles and off the bobbins so that I had plenty to show you. So, like I said, I am a day late, and I am sorry about that for those of you who were looking this morning. But I hope that you will come and enjoy 20 to 30 minutes with me and that you are having a good week. It has been not a bad week here. The weather has been pretty overcast and stormy, actually. Today is the first time in several days that we have sunshine, and my husband is beyond thrilled. He went out this morning and he flies radio-controlled model airplanes and hexacopters, and he got out today and flew, so his mood is much better. Anyway, but it's been a nice weekend. I've gotten lots of crafting in. We've caught up on some series that we watched that we were behind on. It's just been very relaxing, but like I said, I've gotten a lot done crafting-wise, so I've been very excited about that. A note about next weekend. I do not know if I will be able to record next weekend. My parents are going to be in town, which is exciting. My parents live in California, and so I only see them a couple times a year, but they are going to be in town next weekend. That does mean that I don't know if I'm going to have time to record, though. And I also don't know how much I'm going to get done between now and then because they arrive on Friday. So there may or may not be an episode next weekend, or it may just be something real short. So if there is not, don't worry. There will be a longer episode the following weekend because I'll just have twice as much to show you. So let's get started. Today I am drinking a new tea. It's by Salada, and it's 100% pure white tea in the Asian plum flavor, and that came from a delightful swap with a viewer. I think she's a viewer. I posted on Ravelry saying that I was looking for swaps, and she for minis, and she wrote back, and so we swapped minis, and she sent me a beautiful little package with a little cross-stitch teapot magnet. It was just fabulous. And she sent me a bunch of teas that I hadn't tried, so I was excited to try this one. And I am drinking this in my Batman knitter mug, which is available from Society 6. I think it's called Skills, but I like to call it the Dark Knitter, and I will post a link to that in the show notes as well as the tea, but this is the first time I am trying this one. Ooh, that's really nice. It's very mild, but I really like it. Although I think I did just burn my tongue because it was so hot. Oops! So that is 100% pure white tea in Asian plum from Salada, and in my Skills mug with Batman knitting. I am not wearing knitting today. I am hanging out indoors, and it is supposed to be hot and humid today. My husband said that even though it wasn't raining, it was like almost 100% humidity, which is kind of normal for here in Kansas, but did not need knitting. So for this week, I have one finished object, which I had talked about last week and hoped to have done, and it is done all except the buttons. It is still a little bit damp, so I need to let it finish blocking, but this is the Chicory Top by Sarah Pope. It blocked out very, very nicely. The yarn is Unwind Company Journey Sock. and it is in the I Want It Now colorway, and like I said, I think it looks like crushed blueberries. My only regret about this is that the yarn, I think, is a little distracting to the little stitch that is there, the little detail stitch, but otherwise I am super pleased, and it is adorable. It is for a baby that will be born in July, so I think it will be perfect. And like I said, I just need to let that lay down and finish blocking, and then I have these just really plain kind of pearlized buttons, and I think they'll be really sweet with it. Just, it doesn't need anything special. So that is what I'm going to do with that one. So that is, like I said, Chicory Top by Sarah Pope. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. And it is super cute. It only comes in one size, so if you are looking to make it, it needs to be for a 0 to 3 months, and that happened to fit with what I was looking for, so I think that will be great. So moving on to the other things that I am working on, I am still working on the Almas shawl, which is by Kirsten Kapoor, and that's a 2-color shawl. It's got some alternated rows of colors, and then it's got an edging in lace, and I actually started the lace yesterday and got 10 rows into it. It's 34 rows. So the shawl is nice and big. I kept going quite a bit extra on the top. The pink is Color Pearl MCN in Deep Cochineal Cherry, and actually I need to, or Cochineal Dark Cherry, and actually I need to test a swatch in the sink because I don't want it to run all over the white, so I need to double check that. The white is Hedgehog Twist Sock, and that is in the teacup colorway, and actually it's very hard to see, but I have a second ball, slightly different base. This is just her sock, which is a merino. The other one was a BFL nylon. And this is in the teacup colorway, which, like I said, is a cream with lots of speckles of pink and brown and blue. And I still don't know if you can see it completely, but I am starting on the edging, which is lacy, and actually, yes, you can see it quite a bit there. I really wanted the colors in this yarn to show on the edging, so the leafy edging, this is about 1/3 of it in the other colorway. So I hope and expect and need to have this one done this week. I am submitting it to the Harry Potter House Cup. I am submitting it to the Stitch Addiction Shawl Knit Along, and also for Stash Dash for the Knit Girls. But it needs to be done this week to fit into all of those things. So I am on deadline, but like I said, I only have about 20 some odd rows left of the lace edging, so I think I can do it. And by the time I podcast again, I should have a finished object to show you. And it's going to be huge, which is exactly what I wanted. And then it's very hard to see, but the lace edging. So that is my progress on Almas, and I am super pleased on that one. I will put notes on my project page about how many repeats extra I went on that, just in case you wanted to make a super large shawl. I would say in that case you need to have 2 balls of one color and 1 ball of another color. And I did manage to save, I think this is between 20 and 25 grams of the Cochineal Dark Cherry, so that I can do something on the edging of the shawl, like either an I-cord bind off or maybe just a couple rows at the edge. I just thought that would really tie it in together nicely. So that is that project. I actually needed to start a new project. My in-laws were here last weekend and we went to the movies, and I did not have a plain project that I could knit on in the movies. Yes, I do knit in the dark. I don't do anything complicated, but I do like to take something with me. Otherwise, I just fiddle in the dark and kind of anxiety, and I just twitch and my husband gets annoyed. So I usually bring something with me, and I had been wanting for a while, I guess maybe like 3-4 weeks ago, I posted a picture on Instagram of all the projects I wanted to cast on, and I had some of my hand spun that I wanted to cast on for socks. It was something that I spun earlier on the podcast, and it's kind of hard to see. It is burgundies and browns and purples and 2 different kinds of greens. It's like a regular green, it's like a grassy green, and then almost kind of a minty bluey green. Anyway, it's super dark. It's really not showing up very well on the podcast. Anyway, this was yarn that I spun. It was Southern Cross Fiber. Might have been Corriedale, called After the Rains, and when I was done with it, I was not super happy with it. It had some flubs in it, and so I decided not to sell it, and it sat in my hand spun box for a while, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it, and then I decided, ooh, I'm gonna make socks. So I went ahead and wound it into 2 equal cakes, just measured that on my scale, and I started knitting socks. So I have a toe and a little bit, and oh, the light is just terrible, and it's just not going to show you this color. It is mostly like browns and reds in here. I will try and take some Instagram photos. The toe is green, which is, ooh, that works a little bit. That's a little bit of what it's like. It is super dark, but the camera is just not picking this up. Anyway, I am getting to the heel. I actually tried a short row heel and ripped it out because I didn't like it. So I think I am going to actually do a gusset and heel flap. But this is my normal toe up, and I am just about to start the gusset now so that I can get around the heel and then keep going. So this is the first sock, first ball. I don't expect that this will be finished anytime super soon, because I certainly won't work on it much until I finish Almas. But then I will probably work on it a bit for next month. So, and I am super sorry that you can't see it. It's very pretty. It's got some orangey burgundy and some purple, and then it's got kind of some olivey green, and it's just really not showing up. That's a little bit better, but not much. Okay, I will take some pictures and post them on Instagram if you are interested in seeing this one. So that is knitting done. I do have some things that I need to cast on, but I am waiting for June 1st. I am going to do the Loopy Use Camp Loopy, although I am participating from home this year, and I am going to knit from stash. So I have a shawl picked out in yarn wound and ready to go for the first project. So that will be a cast on of June 1st, which I believe is not a week from today. So, 25th, yes, a week from today. So that will be ready to go. I also have another baby gift to knit. My husband's boss is having a baby and is due in August. So I picked out a cute little sweater that I'm going to knit in the 3 to 6 month size. So it'll be a little winter sweater. So those are going to be my 2 cast-ons for next month. And I might throw a pair of socks in there. We'll just have to see how quickly the other stuff goes. You also may have noticed that I did not do a charity hat this month. I have a ball of sock weight yarn that I'm going to hold double and do 2 charity hats, and I am actually just waiting to cast those on because there is a Quidditch round in the Harry Potter House Cup, so I am kind of timing my projects to fit in with all the prompts and get the maximum imaginary internet points for them. So you will definitely see some new stuff in the next couple weeks as I finish these other projects. So that brings me to spinning. I actually finished 2 things this week because I finished both a spin that I did on my Joy, my Ashford Joy wheel, and then I also finished my first spin on the mini spinner. So the first thing is that I showed you 2 braids last week from Easy Knits, Deeply Wicked in Falkland. It was Berry Blast, and actually this is a huge spin for this week because it was 2 bumps, and I spun them together into a huge mega skein, and actually I plied on the mini spinner because the mini spinner has 8-ounce bobbins, which is fabulous. So this is Berry Blast. It is pinks and cherries, and then some really light pinks and light lavenders, and it is just gorgeous. It is not quite dry yet, so it is not as fluffy and squishy as I think it will be, but it is gorgeous and huge. I expect somewhere between 400 and 500 from this skein. I realize that's a huge range, but it's still really damp, so I can't get a good feel for exactly how much I'm going to get for it in the final measurements. But that is, like I said, Deeply Wicked, Falkland in Berry Blast, and a double skein. My guess is it's going to be a DK weight or so, Sport to DK. And that will be going up in the shop, although definitely not until tomorrow because it is still so wet and I can't get accurate measurements on it. So that is the first spin for this week, and I'm loving it. The second spin for this week was the one that I finished on the mini spinner. You guys never saw this fiber because it was partially started on the mini spinner by the previous owner. So I decided to go ahead and continue spinning it and make it my first practice braid on the mini spinner. And actually, I say it was on the mini spinner, but in truth, it had a little bit of time on both wheels. I spun all the singles on the mini spinner, but it was a gradient braid in pinks. And usually with gradients, I either leave them as singles or, well, okay. Normally when I get a gradient braid, I try and break it in half evenly and spin a 2-ply and then ply so that the colors line up into a gradient. However, this one had already been started, and when you're spinning a gradient, if you want to keep all the long color repeat together and you want it to be one long progression, you either need to leave it as singles or you need to chain ply it so that you keep all the colors consistent. I am not a big chain plier. That actually was a question in one of the previous episodes. I'm not terribly good at it and I don't enjoy it that much. And I also find it significantly reduces my yardage. However, because this one was already started, I went ahead and finished spinning the singles, and then I went ahead and chain plied it. However, since I'm really not very good at chain plying, I decided not to make that an experience on the mini spinner because I was afraid I would have trouble with it and it would break, and it did break some, but so I plied it on my Joy. So actually, technically, it's seen both wheels, but I finished it. This was a braid from... let me think about this because I didn't buy this. It's a braid from Corgi Hill Farms, which has a shop on Etsy. She does some amazing gradient braids. This one was Polworth Silk, which is one of my favorite fibers to spin. And it was in pinks and the colorway was Orchid. And this is the finished product. There are sections that are almost white pink, and then it goes into like a slightly darker pink, and then a slightly darker pink, and then we get into kind of almost a cherry or magenta pink. And so that is finished. Now, I will tell you a couple things. This skein is not going into the shop. This was definitely kind of a practice skein. The interesting thing is that my friend and I, so the original owner of the wheel spun about 1/3 of the braid before she stopped and sold the wheel. Her third, she spun her singles in the opposite direction that I did, and I think she actually told me which direction they were spun, and I didn't think about it when I did it. And so her singles were spun the opposite direction, so I had to stop, and this isn't actually one skein, it's actually 2 small skeins, because I had to ply her section separately because I had to ply it the opposite direction of the rest of mine. And she also spun her singles a little thicker and loftier than I spun mine. So her sections are actually like much closer to a DK worsted weight, and my sections are much closer to like a sport DK. You'll be able to see that those are kind of thinner because I wasn't paying attention to what she spun. So I also had trouble with, in a couple spots, my singles got too thin, and so they broke and I had to put them back together, and I did not do that well. So this is kind of a Frankenskein, honestly. And so this will not be going anywhere. It will just be held, and I can call it my first skein playing around on the mini spinner. It has not been washed yet, which is why it's really kind of funky. I just finished it yesterday and decided to bring it in to show you. And I also don't know on the yardage. I'm guessing somewhere around 300 yards. and it was an oversized braid. It was probably 5 ounces, so not great yardage. Certainly not what I am used to, but a good spinning experience, and the colors are pretty. I wish I'd done a better job with it, because I really think it would be gorgeous knit, but yeah. So that's that, which means it is time to talk about what I'm going to spin this week. If you are a member of the Crazy, Twisted, and Arbitrary Fiber Group, if you are a spinner, they do spin-alongs. They do them quarterly, and this time around, April to June, was Julie Spins, who I love. She does oversized braids in beautiful colorways, and I couldn't resist. I bought one. It is Targhee, which is super soft and is going to puff up. And this is called Pansy, and it is oranges and pinks and yellows and purples. And this actually I probably will spin in a gradient, and I'll probably divide it and then do a two ply. Although I haven't quite decided. I guess I might just do a barber pole. I'm not really sure. So that is actually what I'm going to start later today. I'll need to figure out what it is that I want to do with it. And this is an oversized braid. It's about 5 ounces. So that is what I'm going to work on this week. And I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do, whether I'm going to do it on the mini spinner or the Joy. So really, I have lots of decisions awaiting me this afternoon. But this is what I'll work on this week and come back and show you next week. So I think that's my podcast today. It's a little bit shorter, but I don't have huge amounts to show you or talk to you about. I will remind you that we currently have a knit along going on over in the Corner of Knit and Tea group. It is the Spring into Summer knit along, and that is for May and June. Just knit anything that reminds you of spring or summer, either colors, either objects, a sun hat, socks, a lacy shawl to keep your shoulders warm in the air conditioning, or in materials, cotton, linen, anything that's sort of a summery material. You know me, I'm not huge on rules, so just sell it to me that it's spring, and you can enter a picture in the finished objects thread for a chance to win prizes. And I keep saying that I will show you what those prizes are. I will show you those prizes on the next podcast, I promise. I will pull them out and we'll talk about them. I think there'll probably be 2, so I will pull those out and get those ready to show you next time. But if you haven't come over and joined us, or you would like to, works in progress are fine as long as you have at least some portion of the work done in May or June. So please come over, find us, come chat, and if you're feeling like it, join the knit along. I guess now it is time for me to say goodbye. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and I might not see you next weekend, but I will definitely see you the following week. And until we meet again, I will say happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye!